Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we have a very special and important topic to discuss. It's the importance of protecting our Native American heritage as Mexicans. If you're interested in learning more about this, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. So, the connection between Mexican and Native American heritage. If you're So, did you know that a significant part of Mexican heritage has its roots in Native American culture? The history of Mexico is deeply intertwined with that of Native American civilizations such as the Aztecs, Mayan, and Olmecs. Just to name a few, these ancient civilizations played a major role in shaping modern Mexican culture and identity. An example is the word Mexican, which comes from the Mexica, which were actually the Aztecs, right? But most people don't even know that. But that's a big example of how your actual identity is mixed into, even saying you're Mexican. It's basically saying you're Native American, you're part of a Native American tribe, although now it's definitely a more national thing, right? Saying you're Mexican doesn't necessarily mean you're Native American, but it's a way that your Native American ancestors have, shaped our identity, which is a good thing, right? Because we're talking about preserving our heritage and our culture. Now, the importance of preserving our heritage. Now that we've established the connection between Mexican and Native American heritage, let's talk about why it's essential to protect and preserve it. Understanding our ancestors. First and foremost, by learning about and preserving our Native American heritage, we're able to better understand our ancestors, where we come from. This allows us to connect with our roots, which can give us a strong sense of identity and belonging, right? If you feel like an outsider, you feel like you don't belong, whether that be in Mexico or the United States, if you do a genealogy and you find out that, well, if you're Native American, you should already feel a sense of belonging, but if you want a more sense of belonging, like maybe to a tribe or an empire or something, a community, then doing your genealogy can definitely help, right? Because it could, hopefully it can give you an exact tribe that you belong to. But even if you don't, as long as you know you're Native American and maybe seeking out a language out of the 68 that are available in Mexico, and, practicing it and speaking it and keeping the tradition alive with the language definitely helps. And I'm pretty sure there are communities online that also try to preserve it. And if you go to Mexico, there's definitely tribes that, speak the language, but you preserving it and keeping it alive and spreading it definitely helps, right? Can give you a sense of belonging also. So cultural diversity. Another reason is the celebration of our cultural diversity. Mexico is the melting pot of cultures, and embracing our Native American heritage adds to the richness and uniqueness of our society. By preserving and promoting these cultural traditions, we ensure that they're passed down to future generations and continue to be a source of pride for our people, right? There's a lot of cultures in Mexico, not only Native American, there's others, but even with Native Americans, there's a bunch of other cultures that don't necessarily consider themselves Mexican, right? Like Mayans, Puripichepa. I don't think I pronounced that right, but like Chichimex, Mixtecs, they most of the time, from what I've seen, they really don't consider themselves Mexican because that's more of an Aztec thing, right? If they live in Mexico, right? They don't consider themselves Mexican, so they might feel like they're a different culture from being Mexican, right? I know it's a little confusing, but we want to ensure that all Native American cultures live on, especially in Mexico, when we're the majority, right? We're not the minority. So another point is respecting indigenous rights and autonomy. It's also important to acknowledge that many indigenous communities in Mexico still face discrimination and marginalization. By supporting efforts to protect Native American heritage, we're also advocating for the rights and autonomy of these communities, promoting social justice and equality. I'm gonna do some videos reacting, or not reacting, but giving my opinion. I guess which is reacting. Sorry, about there's YouTubers that are pretty famous more in the Mexican community and I guess Southern American community about people, YouTubers that go to these communities, especially indigenous ones, and they're impoverished, right? The people can't, there's no food, or they can't find work, or the roads aren't built. It's underdeveloped, right? And, Mexico has a big problem, especially with not identifying as Native American, right? Like when you think of Mexico, you don't really think maybe Native American, you think Hispanic or Latino, which I've done a video about why you should definitely not call yourself Hispanic or Latino and, recognize that you're indigenous, right? I mean, if you're brown and if you're mixed, then that's kind of a whole different story, but most Mexicans, especially in America, recognize they're native without saying they're native. And a big way that I know this is because every time there's a protest and it involves anything to do with Mexico or Mexicans, you always see brown pride. And the only people that are from Mexico that are brown, right, are Native Americans. So we obviously recognize we are native, right? But Mexico in itself does not recognize itself as native because the government and Native American communities are separate. And I believe it's also in the Constitution, which maybe I'll do a future video about, talking about some points in the Constitution as to why, it's kind of hard for Native American communities or Mexico itself to recognize itself as being Native American. So, another tip on how to protect our Native American heritage is educate others and ourselves. One of the most effective ways to promote our heritage is through education. Take the time to learn about the history, customs, and contributions of Native American cultures in Mexico. Share your knowledge with your friends and family and encourage them to do the same. And this can be also not just for Mexico. It could be for the United States. It could be for Canada, anywhere within the Americas, from Brazil all the way to the Alaska, right? When you think of a Native American nation, there really doesn't come up one in your head. And if one does, it's probably, I don't know, maybe Mexico, Peru, Guatemala, right? Because the majority of the people that are from there are brown, right? And the only brown people that were here before the Europeans came were Native American, right? No other types of people were here. Unlike in the old world where there was different types of people. Now, another tip is support indigenous art and culture. Another way to preserve our heritage is by supporting indigenous artists, musicians, artisans by purchasing their works and attending cultural events, or not only enjoying the beauty of their creations, but also contributing to the sustainability of their communities and traditions. Now, this is a good way to support, but it also can be taken advantage of, which I've seen many times where, sometimes they'll haggle with the artist, or they'll try to get exploited by people that, have a more capitalistic way of thinking, right? And that's definitely what we don't want. We don't want communities to be exploited, and especially not people that are already suffering and going through it. We want these people to have a better chance of living, right? So basically, also try to protect these people, especially when buying. Don't haggle, just buy it for whatever price it is, right? Unless they're like really trying to mark you up, but I doubt that happens. Another one is to advocate for indigenous rights. Get involved in organizations, initiatives that advocate for indigenous rights and promote the preservation of Native American heritage. This can include supporting legislation that promotes sacred sites, participating in awareness campaigns, or volunteering with organizations dedicated to these causes. I know that in Mexico it can be dangerous, definitely. I've seen that many people, things happen, but, please try to be safe if you do advocate. And, when you're part of an organization, just all I can say is just to be careful. I don't really have much thought on that. Also, be respectful and mindful. Lastly, always be respectful and mindful when engaging with indigenous cultures and traditions. Show appreciation, but remember that it's not our place to appropriate or exploit these customs for our own purpose, especially if you're native. And if you're not native, also, don't do this. That's simple. And that goes for every culture, not just Native American culture. Don't exploit it and appreciate it. Right? So those are some of the things that, are ways that we can definitely promote to save our Native American heritage as Mexicans. And remember that there's a lot more to just being Native American from Mexico. There are 68 different languages. There are many tribes, many people that, want their history and their language to live on. And I think if you reach out to these people and you learn the language and the history, I think you can be part of a community. I don't see why not. But thank you. And I'll see you guys next time.